job.
What? Are you serious? How now?
Guy, I completed like 3 projects on Talenvo, and the company liked my portfolio.
No way. This could change everything.
Hello and welcome everyone to Workfront Summit 2025, Day 2. My name is Mitchell Adamu, your host for today, and I am super excited to be back here. If you're excited to be here, please drop your favorite emoji in the chat. I want to see all of you. Please get to the chat and show your excitement for Day 2. Yesterday, we had a super amazing time learning from our keynote speakers, learning from the panelists, and just getting that tip of the iceberg into what we are bound to experience in day 2 and day 3. So I want to see excitement in the chat. I see Joy Udom, I see Gloria Cassidy. Hi, thank you so much for joining. You can take it a step further to let me know where you're joining from. Where in the world are you joining from? You can let me know. If this is your first time joining us, let's imagine that you couldn't join in yesterday. I would say you're in the best place you can be at this time, because Workfront Summit is that channel that has been created for professionals, recruiters, company owners and leaders, and even founders to get actionable strategies to shape how they work and to shape the future of work. You're looking to drive that change. In this summit, you're going to be getting those groundbreaking ideas that can position you for success and that can help you to have that competitive edge. So I see more people. I see Samira. Please forgive me if I murdered your name, but I want to try. Mogeni. I see Rita Chibuike. Thank you so much for joining today. I see Grace. Keep it coming, keep it coming, keep it coming. Grace is joining from Nigeria. Oh, I see someone say this is their first time. Hi, Grace. Thank you for joining us from Port Harcourt. We're glad to have you here. Hi, Gloria from Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining. I see this is another one. I see Munashi Matsanura. That's a beautiful name. Thank you for joining us from Swaziland. I see Alawode Oluwabukola. Yes, I'm super excited for day 2, and I'm glad you share that excitement. I see Olayiwola from Nigeria. Thank you for joining. I see Amarachi Ochia. You're bound to have the best time of your life at this summit today. So if you can take it a step further, especially for those of you that were here yesterday, would you like to share in the chat one thing you took out? We had Carl in his keynote speech give us some insights. We also had this panelist going into the world of AI and how it improves and shapes the future of work. So if you could just take it a step further to let us know in the chat what was that thing you learned. For me, I would say that from Carl's session, I still found myself ruminating on it, over the night, when he said that the way education works in Africa already puts us at a disadvantage. So we have to take that extra step as professionals to ensure that we're exposing ourselves to means through which we can practicalize those things we learned, moving away from cramming to actually knowing how the knowledge should be applied, and then to the recruiters having to find that balance between seeking people who already can apply those things and actually growing people who, in a sense, didn't have the chance to. What we see typically in some regions, Africa, for example, is that we already have a pipeline, which is, let's call them A, and those ones are already prepared for the work environment. But section B, they don't have the skills. But you find out that recruiters are always going for the A, and by the time A is depleted, there's no one else. So recruiters, company owners, founders have to do that painful job of grooming and training what we would call in the HR world the talent pool, right? So if you're a recruiter on this call, if you're a founder on this call, a company leader on this call, there is hard work waiting for you. And like I said yesterday, if you're probably wondering, okay, what if I go through the process of training these people and in the end someone just comes with a mouth-watering offer and takes away my employees? I mean, that's why this summit exists. It's going to train you on how to retain top talent. So at the end of this summit, by tomorrow, you can boldly say, I've learned how to train and retain top talent, and you will get practical tips to do so. I see Gloria say she learned that it's okay to take a step back and try to really bring value to what is not just a problem, but what resonates with you. And I think that's beautiful. When you are tied to a vision, it's easier for you um, to learn and give all it takes to achieve it. I see Rita say that yesterday she learned about augmentation, not automation. And I think that is very crucial, Rita. Thank you for pointing that out. And if you're wondering what that means, the panelists alluded to the fact that even though AI has come to stay in the recruitment landscape, it's very important that it does not replace the human part of what you do as recruiters or human resource personnel, right? There is still that human factor. So AI should augment your processes and work, but it should not automate everything to the point of eradicating that human factor that is very necessary. So please keep it coming, keep it coming, keep it coming. And while you keep your responses coming, I'm going to be taking you straight to the next session. You're going to be seeing a little bit about Workfront, and then afterwards, we'll be introducing you to our keynote speaker for today, an amazing leader, one who has established a space in the global landscape, in person of Alicia Butler. And I can't wait for you all to experience what she has in store today. So team, take it away.
Up next. Alicia Butler-Pierre is the founder and CEO of Equilibria, a global operations firm helping fast-growing businesses scale efficiently. A TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and top-ranked podcast producer, she's also a Purdue instructor and was named a top 50 thought leader in operational excellence. Her mantra is, "Leave it better than you found it."
Am I on? Hello, everyone. I guess it's time for me to start. So I'll just start talking. Thank you so much for joining this session. We're going to tailor this talk about building high impact teams. I know that is what the focal point and the theme is for this particular day of the Workfront Summit. So thank you all so much for joining. I know many of you have already shared where you are from, but if you wouldn't mind, can you start putting in the chat whether you are a recruiter, a founder, a CEO, or just an ambitious professional. So please put that information in the chat, because I'd like to tailor what I'm about to say based on who is actually participating right now. And I can't see any, if anyone is actually presenting anything in the chat, but I'll just keep going. So welcome, everyone. I am Alicia Butler-Pierre. I am actually the founder and CEO of a company called Equilibria. And Equilibria is headquartered here in Atlanta, Georgia, which is in the southeastern part of the US. I do need to see my slides, please. Let's see. Okay. And what we do at Equilibria is we're all about operational excellence and something that we refer to as business infrastructure. So business infrastructure, if we think of a talent equation, business infrastructure takes a look at the people, the processes, and the tools and technologies that it takes to make a business scale, not only profitably, but sustainably and in a repeatable manner. And we have actually come into contact with Talenvo as a result of a conference that we attended in Qatar a couple of months ago, and we are now registered as a business there as well. So that puts us in a strategically geographic location as well, to be able to better service those of you, many of you, it sounds as though you are across Africa, as well as in other parts of Europe, as well as Asia and Asia Pacific. So again, very excited to be here. And that gives you just a little bit more information about who this company is. I'm going to share with you, before I get to that next slide, what I'm going to share with you is a story, because I think the best way, rather than just teaching you some concepts that you may not be able to apply. And I know that was a big part of what yesterday's presentation was about, was not actually just learning information, but being able to apply that information. And I thought the best way to possibly talk about the talent equation and how to build high impact teams would be to share a very recent story with you. This is actually something that happened to me just 2 weeks ago, or over the past 2 weeks. It's what I call the tale of two banks. So imagine I'm American and I go to Qatar to open up a new business bank account. So I went in there with an open mind, but I also went in there expecting to have certain issues, but the issues that I expected to have ended up not being the issues that I actually experienced. And this speaks very clearly to the importance of putting people first, as so many of you just mentioned in the chat right before we started this particular presentation. So again, to set the stage, this starts off, if we look at that very first little icon, there's a globe, as well as you can see a hand pointing to a phone. This actually started 2.5 weeks ago when I was attempting to apply for a new business bank account as a small and medium enterprise for this particular bank, which shall remain anonymous. We'll just call it Bank One. And I started encountering some issues. I filled out the information on the website, but for whatever reason, I was unable to actually click the submit button. And I thought, well, maybe it's just a glitch. So I tried a couple of other times. I used different browsers. I used both my laptop as well as my phone to access this form. I just could not get it to work. So I figured, well, maybe it's because I'm here in the States. Maybe once I actually get inside the country, things will work accordingly. Well, I actually fly. I arrive at the bank, which is the next little symbol here that you see in the process. And I'll just use my mouse here so we can follow along with this story. And I'm a potential customer with money ready to deposit into a new business bank account. I first was greeted by a security officer. The officer asked the reason for my visit, and I mentioned to him that it was to open a new small or medium enterprise business bank account. He immediately directed me to a queue, which was a very long queue. And there were two people working at this desk. And this was before you could speak to any bank teller or any other bank representative. You had to first talk to these ladies, and they served as sort of a triage, if you will. Once you told them the nature of your, or the reason for your visit, they would then direct you as to what your next steps should be. So I stand in this queue, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And by the time I actually get to speak to them and tell them the reason for my visit, I was asked if I had completed the application online. I mentioned to them that I was unable to successfully apply online. They insisted that I had to apply online first before I could go any further. So I go back to my phone, still couldn't apply. Even though I'm there in the bank and I am in their country, I was still unable to submit the form online. I went back to stand in the queue, waited again for a very long time before I told the same lady again. But this time I had my phone and I could show her where the error message was and what it looked like and what it said specifically. She directed me back to the security officer. The security officer then had me go and fill out a form on a kiosk to schedule an appointment with an actual bank representative. Unfortunately, I could not get an appointment that same day. I had to come back the next day. And when I spoke to that bank representative, she handed me a thick stack of forms that she told me I needed to fill out. So I was getting excited because I was thinking, even though this is going to be manual, at least I have some forms that I can start filling out to get this process started. But no. She said, you fill out these forms, but you still need to go online and fill out the initial form online. And I just felt like I was in this matrix, if you will, like I was caught in this matrix that I could not get out of. And so I walked away frustrated, tired, because I spent 2.5 days actually in the country trying to get this resolved, and I couldn't. But if we factor in the time that I spent before I even arrived in Qatar, the total time was 2.5 weeks. So this was clearly a bank that had a tech-first approach. They were insistent that I, as a potential customer, use their technology first, even though I was physically present in their bank. Let's look at Bank 2. So I left Bank 1, I got back onto my phone, and I remembered the name of another bank, and I was told that this bank was a little bit smaller, and I just took a chance. I literally went down the street to Bank 2. So there's Bank 1, there's Bank 2. I could easily walk from one bank to the other one. Bank 2 had more of a tech-forward approach. Very similar to Bank 1, they also had an online application. I showed up as a customer at the bank. I was immediately greeted by a security officer, but that's where the similarities to Bank 1 end. I was immediately shown to a bank representative who gave me 1 or 2 forms to fill out. He explained the process to me, and in less than 30 minutes, I had a new business bank account. So keep this in mind. If we look at Bank 1, if we look at Bank 2, they had the same technologies. They both had websites. They both had online forms where you could begin the new bank account opening process. They requested roughly the same information from potential customers, but here's what was different. Bank 2 had a people first approach, tech forward, but people first. And their people were trained to properly guide customers and troubleshoot issues. Bank 1, I kept telling them I had technical issues. No one was trained to help me deal with those technical issues. And guess what? They lost a potential customer. Bank 2, there was one slight technical glitch, but they immediately corrected it and everything moved very smoothly. I mentioned this story because I think it's a classic example of where we are in the world right now. All the world is talking about AI and technology. And don't get me wrong, it's all very exciting. We're using technology right now to have this virtual conference. So technology is great. It has the ability to bridge gaps, bridge talent gaps, knowledge gaps. But what happens when the technology doesn't work? Do you have a backup plan? This is why we need to always keep people and our customers at the center or at the heart of everything we do. Okay? And when it comes to efficiency, being efficient in the technologies that you're using, being efficient in the way that you provide a particular service, or efficient in the way you produce a product, that is not a Western concept. Being proficient in your use of technology, being proficient in the skills that you have already developed, that's not just a Western concept. And being transparent about the work that is being done, the work that needs to be done, and being transparent about what your skills are as a professional, these are not concepts that are limited to Western businesses. What was frustrating for me is when I would hear people say, oh, well, you know, that's how it is in other countries outside of the US. And I never want to be that American, right? Because I don't believe that. And I know that it's not true. But what is true is there is a difference or a lack of access to resources. That is a huge difference that I have personally noticed in my travels to multiple countries around the world. So to that extent, that is why I am here. And I'm so glad that I've been invited, because my company specializes, again, in creating business infrastructure. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time for me to be able to give a proper demonstration, but I do want to share with you all some of the very basics or the highlights so that you can hopefully take that information, and I'll provide some additional resources for you that are free that you can leverage to further your knowledge of business infrastructure. It starts with identifying all of the different tasks and tools or technologies that are used within an organization. Or it could be specific to your team or specific to a particular department that you are working in. So in this picture here, you'll notice that that's me and one of my clients. She is also here in the US, and she has a business where she plans events for other organizations. And those large sheets of paper that you see on the wall behind us, that was the result of a very rigorous brainstorming exercise that we went through, trying to understand everything that has to be done to operate the business on a day-to-day basis, no matter how simple it is or how complex it is. Here's a key component. That brainstorming exercise is only something that we as humans could do. That's not something that AI could help us figure out. This is her business, and the way she does her business and conducts her business is unique to her. The way your company works is unique to your company. However, we did use AI as an assistant. So if we ever got stuck on the right way, the correct way to word something, or the correct way to say something, that's when we might leverage Perplexity or ChatGPT or Gemini if we ever got stuck with something. But we used a people-first approach when it came to the brainstorming. Now, in the second picture, We take all of those tools, all of those tasks that have been identified, and they're transferred onto these little note cards. So what you see in the picture there ahead of you on the screen is several tables that we've pushed together. And just imagine, I'm showing here just some cards that are just representative of what would be tasks. So imagine what I have here is B3, and on this card A2, that these represent different tasks that have to be performed in your team, your department, or your organization overall. We spread out all of those different tasks. We start to organize those tasks into groups based on the similarity of the content of the tasks. And then we look at each task one by one, and we ask ourselves, in a perfect world, if we had access to all of the resources that we needed, who ideally should perform, for example, task A2? Well, it's very common, especially for those of you who are founders that are participating in this session right now. We do everything, right? We typically tend to do everything. So I don't know if you can see this here, but I have a little stick figure, and I've written the word CEO. So we might say, oh, well, as the CEO, I currently perform that role. But that's not what the goal is. The goal is to figure out who ideally should perform this task. Just because you could doesn't mean that you should. The idea is to think about who is the ideal candidate to perform that task. So it might actually be, this is just an example, an office manager, and hopefully you all can see this. Okay, so we've gone from what we originally identified as something that a CEO or a founder should do, and we've transitioned that to really thinking about who ideally should perform that work. And it would be an office manager. Again, that's just an example. But once you have taken all of these little stick figures, all of these note cards, and you've properly matched skills or tasks to a specific role, that's when you can start thinking, if you are a recruiter or if you are an actual founder, you're in charge of hiring people, that's when you can start to have a discussion about, okay, is this a full-time position? Is it a part-time position? Will this position be 100% remote or virtual? Is this position 100% in person? We need someone actually in the office with us. Can there be a hybrid approach where maybe most of the time the person is working remotely, or the other half they might be working from home? Can you leverage interns? Can you leverage volunteers? What work can be outsourced to other people? So they're not necessarily employees, but you still have someone else doing the work for you. And that's where I know Talenvo can come in. Once you have the tasks identified, the tools identified, you know ideally who should perform those tools and those tasks, that puts you in a position to have very succinct and transparent job descriptions. As a recruiter, the more transparent you are in what the company is looking for, what work is required, and what skills are required, as well as the technologies and other tools that are being used, the better you position yourself to attract the right talent. For those of you that are looking for the job, be transparent as well. If there are certain skills that you know you don't have, be upfront about that. If there are certain skills that maybe you've acquired the skill, but you haven't had an opportunity to actually apply those skills, state that. The more transparent the recruiters are, as well as the more transparent the actual talent pool is, the better the chance for success. Now, part of the role that my company also plays in doing our part to close this global talent gap is to democratize access to information. It's not about a lack of desire. It's not about a lack of intelligence. Oftentimes it boils down to either not having access to the information or not being able to understand how to apply that information once you've learned it. So it does you no good to have the information. You can be in a library full of books. You can sign up for all of the LinkedIn learning courses. You can take all of the free things that are available out there on AI, on Udemy, or all of these other platforms that provide educational resources. But if you don't know how to apply it, it's not going to do you much good. So to that end, I want to encourage all of you, whether you're a recruiter, you're the person who's in a hiring position, if you are a founder or a CEO, or if you yourself are looking for work, I encourage you to look at these two different podcasts. The one on the left is called Business Infrastructure. We have 300 episodes there. This is a podcast where we are very serious about sharing resources. The guests who come onto the show not only tell you how they manage operational efficiency or how they run their back offices, how they have built their teams, but they also tell you the specific resources that they use to accomplish that and how they used it. So that's the Business Infrastructure Podcast. You can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We even have many of those episodes available for you on YouTube. The one on the right is called Scale Tales. This is our newer podcast. This is where guests come from around the world and they come on and they share these stories about how they've scaled their teams, how they have scaled their businesses, how they've been able to scale their impact and their reach. They also share resources that they leveraged in order to achieve that type of scale. So I encourage everyone, please take a look at those podcasts. Those are free resources for you. And I will soon release a full article about the two banks later this week on LinkedIn. So I definitely encourage all of you, please connect with me on LinkedIn so that you can see this full article. I think there's so much more to this story than I was able to share during this presentation, but I definitely encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. And finally, we also have a YouTube channel where, again, many of our podcast episodes, the audio was converted into a video format. So if you prefer to consume your content on YouTube, you have that as an option as well. So I'm going to stop here and ask if there are any questions. You can do this. And thank you so much again for this opportunity. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Okay, thank you so much, Alicia. I must say that was very, very insightful. Thank you. So please, if you have questions, feel free to leave them in the chat while I take my question. So I can say that the story you shared is something that we can also relate to in different parts of the world, where you go to a particular institution and they are not people centric. I mean, you can be trying to resolve an issue for weeks, and meanwhile, you go to someplace else and you just get it resolved in a very short time. So I want to find out, do you think that problem can particularly found in bigger organizations and smaller organizations don't face it, or do you think it's equally distributed? And how would you recommend, yes, you've shared some tips on how your solutions help to resolve that, but if you were to give like a general counsel, how would you recommend company leaders, regardless of how big or how small their businesses are, how would you recommend that they become more people centric than tech centric?
Okay, so to answer your first question, you're right. I've seen this, and this happens in America. It happens everywhere, as you mentioned, Mitchell. I remember being in a bank in Accra a couple of years ago, and I experienced this. So it happens everywhere. But you brought up a very good point. I personally have noticed that the larger the organization, the less customer support and customer service you receive, because they are tech first. They are relying on the technology to do much of the heavy lifting for them at the expense of us as customers. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with integrating technology into your processes. What I am saying is don't forget about the people. If your customer says, I'm having an issue, Mitchell, I'm trying to go to your website, and every time I click the submit button, I get an error or I receive an error. Please help me. But if you don't train your people, your team, to be able to properly troubleshoot, because, and this was something that I thought Carl did such a brilliant job of mentioning yesterday, is because we're memorized and you can be conditioned to do things one way and one way only, you lose the ability to be able to troubleshoot and think on the spot,
Yes.
right? And so that is the skill that I think is missing. There's nothing wrong with having the technology. We absolutely need technology. Technology is enabling us to have this conversation right now, you know, and we're halfway across the world from each other. Mm-hmm. So there's much to gain from the technology, but yes, I have noticed that the larger companies tend to struggle with this more. Whereas for us as smaller businesses, we really know the value of our customers, and we know that we can't afford to lose those customers. Whereas sometimes the bigger organizations can oftentimes take their customers for granted. To answer your second question, and I want to make sure I remember it, would you mind repeating that, the second question, please?
Yes, I said, so let's imagine that there are big techs here or small techs here who have that problem of being tech-centric as opposed to leading with being people-centric. How can they change that narrative? What steps can they take?
A big part of it has to do with customer feedback. Now, here's what's interesting. So when I was at Bank One, every time I had any interaction, I often saw something, whether it was on the phone app or on the website, please share your feedback. Don't ask for feedback if you don't intend to actually read the feedback or listen to the feedback and make adjustments. That is the number one issue. That is how you become people-centric. They're already asking for the feedback. I know Temidayo, I know him well enough to know that he is definitely going to ask everyone who is attending this summit for their feedback. But I also know that he's going to go back and he and his team will read that feedback. They will take that into consideration to understand how they can do an even better job during the next summit. That's how you become people-centric. You don't just ask people, well, what did you think about that, Mitchell? And then what you have to say means nothing to me. That's not how it works.
Okay. All right. I think that's very valid. Taking customer feedback and acting on it. So I would ask one more question before I let you go. I know you're short for time and you made a lot of sacrifices to be here today. So I'm grateful for that. So the second question I want to ask, I'm taking it from the reverse perspective because it's easier to take this step if the leadership of the organizations realize this problem. But what if I'm a professional? So, for example, we have Demilade on this call, Gloria. I know that my organization is not, the organization I work in is not people centric, and they have to be. But I am not occupying a leadership position where I can drive that change. What do you advise they do? Do they just resign and find somewhere else that is people centric, or how can they bring it up?
Leaving is always an option, but it is very possible to lead that change from within, even if you are not in a leadership position. One thing that I can tell you, because I work with a lot of CEOs in small, medium, and very large organizations, people understand money. They understand if they can make more money. They understand if they are losing money. If you, Gloria, can show your leaders how they are losing money, for example, let's think about Bank One. They lost a customer. I literally had a check with me to deposit into their bank, but they lost me. Now I'm one customer, but imagine that times 100 customers, times 1,000 potential customers. When you start to put the numbers to it, put an actual financial value to that, I guarantee you'll start to get their attention. This is outside of, I know, the context of what we want to talk about, but I do want to mention this is something that I teach my students. I am a Lean Six Sigma black belt, and so we talk a lot about reducing waste. And oftentimes my students are in the same position as Gloria, where they're not in a leadership position. So I teach them how they can document processes and show the financial impact of broken or bad processes. And then they can share that with their leadership. And that's what usually gets the conversation started. So I hope that helps.
That helps, and I believe that for people listening in, this also helped them. I want to say thank you so much, Alicia. I think this was really insightful, and it's something that not just professionals but businesses can learn with. So please, everyone, feel free to drop your excitement, and you can say thank you to Alicia in the chat. You can also connect with her on LinkedIn. Her name is Alicia Butler Pierre. Just to confirm, you referenced the podcast. How can we get that? I think there's
Sure,
someone.
I can send you. I don't know if I can leave anything in the chat, but I could put a link or I can
I
email a
think
link.
okay, yes, you can email it to the Talenvo team, and we'll
Okay,
share.
sure.
All
Thank
right,
you all
thank
so
you so much. Thank you. Have a good day ahead. All right. Thank you so much. Everyone, please feel free to share your excitement. I think that was a very insightful one. You can do well to share what you learned in the chat. One of the things that stood out for me is having a people first approach in different parts of the world, in Asia, Europe, Africa. You find that businesses are not as people centric as they should be, right? And that is something that needs to change. So I'm glad that we had this conversation. And I think that it's something that company owners, founders need to be particular about. No matter how big you are growing, you need to ensure that you are touching base with the smallest of things. That's why I love it when I hear founders who say that sometimes team they rotate team functions, not an excessive an excessive path on that can be, or rather doing that excessively can be wrong, but it's also good where everyone gets to feel the burden or feel the pain point of the customer. When a founder says that sometimes they answer customer complaints, why that is beautiful is because you get to hear it first and you get to feel and see the pain of your customer. So I feel like in different approaches can be taken to just ensure that companies are leading with the people first approach. We are not saying eradicate technology, but ensure that technology is there, it's a constant, but lead with a people centric approach. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope we are still on this call. If you are, please feel free to show that in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling today. Is it morning where you are? Is it afternoon? Is it evening? Please feel free to do that in the chat. And I have an activity for you all. And the first three people to get the answer right will be going home with a gift by the end of tomorrow. So I want you to stay tuned. But before we get into that activity, I just want to give a quick shout out to sponsor and community partners. For GIG Engineer, we just, on behalf of Talenvo, would like to say thank you for making this dream come to life. Thank you for partnering with this vision, this Workfront Summit 2025. We are grateful for you, to our community partners, Mugenics Tribe, Frank and Lydia, Nze Foundation, UX Writers Africa, Intern Kit, and Techies on LinkedIn. We are grateful for you. Thank you for partnering with us. And we can't wait to see the magic that will be birthed as a result of this conference and future partnerships. All right. So thank you once again, everyone. So to the activity I have, How do we do this? 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 Okay, I think I will paste it in the chat. Okay, give me a moment. Let me do that. In the meantime, you all are not encouraging me to. I only see 3 people who are excited in the chat. Should I keep my gifts to myself? Or let's do it this way, because I want you all to engage. I want you to use emojis to describe what you do. I want you to use emojis to describe what you do. Yes, I think we'll do it that way. I want you to use emojis to describe what you do, and maybe I will be the one on the hot seat. Let's see if I will be able to decipher your job role. So whether you're aspiring into a job role, so even if you don't have a role yet, but the role you're looking to get into, use emojis to describe it. Don't use a word. So you have 2 minutes. 2 minutes to do that. I will be looking out for the chats. Let's see the first 3 people who are going to drop it. It doesn't have to be a lot of emojis. The smaller the emojis or the fewer the emojis, the better. Okay, let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. Rita, I'm awaiting your response. Munashi, Samira, feel free to describe. Munashi, how do I do this? Okay, I think I know Joke Akintara Zone. That should be a data analyst. I see the chat. Tell me I'm right. Okay, Munashi, I would think a software engineer. I hope. I hope I got that right. Please keep it coming. Keep it coming. Let's see. You never know. You think this is just a game, but a company owner or recruiter could be listening in, and you might just be the answer to their prayers. Okay, I see Uche Okonkwo. I also see a chart, so that's most likely a data analyst or a data scientist. Please tell me I'm right. Chiamaka, you didn't get it right. You have to describe what you do with emojis. You don't have to type it. So I will now guess what it is. Samira, I see an emoji of someone pressing a laptop and a note. So I will guess a content writer or a writer. Keep it coming, keep it coming, keep it coming. And I will continue taking that. Right about now, we're going to be moving to the next session. First, we're going to have some form of commercials just to give you a little bit of insight into who our sponsor is. And then from that, we'll be getting into an open mic session and an expert session with Nikita. I assure you this will be a very insightful session. So please do well to leave your questions in the chat as it goes along so that we can take them. I really want everyone who has questions to leave here with answers. So do we have a deal? All right, let's get it.
Hi, my name is Gina, and I'm an independent artist and marketing graduate from Egypt. I've been able to merge both my passions by using my background in branding and content creation to promote my music and build my artistic identity online. While I've achieved success in the corporate world, what makes me proud is how I bring creativity into that space and bring strategy and structure into my music. I approach every song like it's a campaign with a clear message, strong visuals, and intentional storytelling. Being both an artist and marketer helps me balance vision with execution. I'm not just creating music, I'm building a brand that connects. And I'm excited to keep growing on both sides while reaching new audiences globally.
Gig Engineer connects companies with an on-demand engineering workforce that scales up or down with business needs, improving agility and efficiency while offering flexible opportunities for engineers.
Up next. Nikita Gardiev is the Chief Technology Officer at Sununu, Qatar's fastest growing tech company. With over 10 years of experience across banking, telecoms, and e-commerce, he blends deep software expertise with leadership. Nikita holds a master's in information security and has completed advanced studies at MIT. He is passionate about sharing knowledge and insights.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me and see me. Not sure who can help me to start presenting the slides. Yeah, perfect. So let's start. So my name is Nikita. I'm currently CTO in Sununu. It's one of the Qatari fastest growing startup specializing on food delivery, e-commerce, marketplace, and so on. And I'm managing team around 150 engineers across the world, from Bogota to Tokyo. So I have quite experience in what workforce we are looking now. But from other side, I'm a student. I'm always studying, and currently I'm participating in Executive MBA and HEC Paris. It's one of the most advanced business schools in the world. So I also know how things looks like from a side of a student in exhausting world. And with AI, especially now, we have like a lot of questions, yeah, because everyone telling us that soon most of the jobs will not be existing. Yeah, even software engineers that I personally don't trust enough. But it's realities, and in 5-10 years, world will be changing dramatically. And in a learning side, we should answer 3 questions. So, as a student, what we have to study, what skills will be required for the future. Second question is from a professor, maybe said, or a manager side. How to teach in the age of AI? How make sure that you're actually teaching people and you are not just reading answers from a ChatGPT? And yeah, how to evaluate on exams, on interviews, that it's actually knowledge from the person, not AI responses. So starting from what to study, yeah, so we don't need to study just code. Actually, never engineers should just study code. It's, when people asked me, even in the past 10-15 years ago, what programming language I should study, what framework I should study, my answer was always just study engineering, yeah, studying the basic principles, studying system thinking, algorithms, study how to understand how the system work. And now we can say more that also you should study how to work with AI, how to work with prompt engineering, how to evaluate that responses from AI, because all of us know that AI can hallucinate. You can imagine some things, yeah, and we always need to know that responses from AI we cannot trust, and we need to know how to evaluate these responses, accuracy of these responses. We are still people, and I hope so in 5 years, in 10 years, we are still will work with the people, at least as the customers. And that Alicia told in the previous session that humans still be there, and we always need to think as a humans to provide better customer service to grow our business. So we need to keep human-centered design, and we need to learn how to provide the best service for humans, yeah, even with help of AI, but still our customers is humans and always will be humans. Speed of learning and adaptability is again key factor. It's not key factor from recent days or even for a future. It's a factor that engineers should always learn, should always study. Like 5 years ago, everyone started studying blockchain. Before it was IoT, before it was another technology, and we should always adapt. And we adapted in the past, and we should know how to adapt for the future. And communication and collaboration. because you still need to communicate with people. AI cannot bring knowledge across different departments in one place, and to know how to work with customer service, how to work with operations, with the business team, and someone human usually have to collect this data, at least to pass to AI for future improvements. So how to teach? Way of teaching is also changing nowadays. I'm again participating in MBA classes, and what I see already, professors start adopting AI. So before, when I was in the school, for example, professors not all of us to use a calculator, in the math classes. But now we see that professors already encourage using AI as a tool. They're not considered it as a cheat. They're considering it as a help to in education process. And as the mentors, as the teachers, as managers, we should enforce people and teach them how to prompt properly, how to review and refine AI answers. And we should facilitate to use AI. It's tools that with us for a long period of time, and everyone should to know how to deal with it. Yeah. So as I mentioned, in HEC, we are going to use AI tools in all assignments. Because it's very powerful tool for research, for getting quickly numbers. So before, what we should Google for hours, now we can get in a few prompts to the AI, but still we need to verify the data. Even that I faced in the my work job, it's that sometimes AI giving you answer, but if you ask in the next question of AI, please verify that the answer is correct, you can getting surprise results that the answer no looks like it's a fake. Yes, so even AI can verify AI. So always when you're getting the data, try to check with AI with a different model and make sure that you're actually getting the right answer. Also, how we are facilitating in Snono, we have an internal academy for building AI skills in employees. As you mentioned, we have 150 engineers that already pretty know how to work with AI, but still we have up to 1,000 other employees, not technical employees, who we want to facilitate and increase their skills of usage AI. And for that, we are running internal AI labs. It's everyone can bring their idea, what they're doing on everyday work, how we can, as a tech team, as engineers, how we can help them to leverage AI in their day-to-day work, or even sometimes in like their side activities, personal life, and so on. And we are trying to provide as much as possible AI tools to not compromise security and make sure that no corporate data are leaked, but still employees are able to use AI. We are facilitate micro learnings because what's good in AI, you could get a lot of information very quickly. And if you don't know something about a topic, with a few prompts, with correct prompts to AI, you can become not an expert, but pretty well familiar with the topics in a very fast, like in like 5-10 minutes. We are selecting AI champions. Mostly it's from engineering team, but for example, from a finance, we have a guys who is also is AI champion who facilitate and help all other employees to use AI tools. And we're thinking how to open new career paths for employees who actually we can predict that in the future we will not have so much need in these professions for some manual customer support agent, for example, that it's a very big trend now to replace customer support agent with AI. But we are facilitating people to learn new career paths and to switch inside the company to to a new position, to a new job. Also, I don't know why the slide is not here, but one important topic that I want to cover is already engineering manager. And that I see that a lot of you are looking for a job right now, and you may face a lot of interviews. And there is two different behaviors on interview from interviewer side. First, people prohibit to use AI tools at all. That ask you to share your screens. They're trying to check that you are not using anything, but at the same time, there is a tons of videos on YouTube and Instagram how candidates are bypassing all these checks and still continue using AI in the interview process. So ways that we are going to use, and I think it's something that everyone will adopt in the future. We going to allow use of AI tools on the code interviews as well. So, for example, again, when I 20 years ago interviewed in my first job, I even didn't have a computer. I should put everything on a whiteboard, without ADA, without any code completion tools, and so on. Nowadays, most of the companies are willing to use IDEA at least for code interviews. I think the future step is allow to use also copilots, because honestly, even at the everyday work, we are using copilots a lot. We are using AI a lot, and one of the skills that we should verify on interview is that you're ready to your everyday work and to all parts of your everyday work, and using AI copilots, AI agent is a big part of that. So I think that we need to facilitate usage of AI on interview process well, to check how people actually can use it, how they are verifying the data from it, how they can make a proper prompt to AI to do their everyday work. So at the beginning, to wrap up, let's incorporate AI tools in every part of the process. Let's start teaching with AI. Let's facilitate using AI, but using it smart with proper data validation, with proper prompt engineering. And to validate AI data is always what we need. It's critical thinking. Yeah. So when you ask another human or coworker some question and you can answer, you are think and evaluate internally in your mind, is it correct? Am I agree with it? Completely same you should do with AI responses. And of course, we should empower teams, empower employees, empower students with maximum access to AI tools. I know that in some regions it's still problematic to, pay for ChatGPT subscription, for example. I think that universities, companies should provide this to all employees to increase the quality of education in everyday work life. I think that's all from my side. Thank you everyone for listening and participating. If someone have a questions, I'm ready to answer on it.
Okay, thank you so much, Nikita. I would say that was very insightful. Please, if you have questions, do well to leave them in the chat while I take my questions. From your session, it was very evident that to build a future-ready workforce, AI is very important. And there's something I saw you say about learning how to prompt. And I think I would love you to go into details, like more details, particularly in line with professionals looking to get the best out of AI. So I'm not talking about recruiters now, company owners. And I say this because most times you find out that since these AI tools came about, ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek, and the likes, you just go there to ask a question and then you take the response as it is. But I've learned over time that for you to get what you want, you have to learn how to teach the tool to give you what you want. So do you have some tips that can help our listeners know how to better prompt AI
Mhm.
to be able to give them what they need?
Yeah, there is like 1,000 of videos on YouTube, top 10 tips of prompt engineering, top 10, top 100. So ideally, you can create even very simple first question. Yeah, but don't get the first answer. Yeah, when LLM provides you answer, just try to ask 2, 3, 5 follow-up questions on different details, and you will get much more relevant data and better answer. Also, in most of the tools now, deep research of function capability. And if you're looking in really something, especially in data research, please use deep research. It will again give you much more relevant data.
Okay.
Yeah, and
All
always
right.
validate. Again, you can get answer from ChatGPT and ask DeepSeek to validate the answer, and sometimes you will be surprised.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So what I hear you say is that as opposed to just the usual way of just asking one question, you can start with a question and learn to give follow-up questions and
Yeah,
feedback.
like actually that you are doing right now with me. So you ask your first question, and you're asking a follow-up questions. Yeah, it's with human communication. So you just don't get the first answer from anyone, from AI, from your boss, from your subordinates or managers. Yeah, okay. Ask follow-up questions.
Sure. And I like something you just said, and you said human communication. And I think that that's a mindset everyone on this attending the summit need to take away, that even if it's an AI tool, I must retain the part of human communication with it just so that I can get what I need out of it. So I know you're short for time, so I will just take one more question from the chat this time. Uche says, doesn't a high dependency on AI in the workplace eliminate the need of having the practical skill sets? What do you think?
Depends what we mean about practical skill sets. I personally believe that know how to use AI. It's very practical skill set. Also, if you're speaking about engineering job, yeah, still AI can only help. He cannot give you all the answers. And for example, in Snunu, we are working in an environment. We have more than 100 microservices with a very huge code base. And when we are asking AI to, okay, let's design the new feature, if he cannot answer, I saw again, on YouTube there is a ton of video how AI building the product from the scratch, but usually it's very simple web page or something that you are doing from a scratch. But when you have like 5, 10, 15 years of legacy code, yeah, struggling a lot to do it. And here is actually engineering work and skills what's come up. So again, in my experience, even now, even before AI, coding part of engineer, it's like 30-50% per day. Because others it's communication, design, and so on. And with AI, we reduce it like 30% of the coding or to 15% of the coding. But most important part, it's not the coding itself. It's how we are designing and delivering the product.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much, Nikita. I think that response was on point. And I, at this point, would have to call it. I would have to let you go because I know you're short for time. But I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today and to share this insight. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
All right, take care of yourself. Bye. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying true till now. We have something pretty interesting coming up. And if you remember what I said yesterday, and I alluded to it earlier today about how companies can retain top talent and how employees or professionals on this call can also better position themselves to be trained, retained, and know how to navigate those climbs where it's looking like there's better things out there for you. We have something in that line coming up very soon, but we'll be going on a short break now to give you a little bit of insight into what we have in store, and then we'll get right into the panel session where you get to learn how to develop and retain top talent.
Up next. Morenikeji Abiona is a tech-focused HR professional with a passion for talent acquisition and team building. Since pivoting from linguistics into HR in 2019, she's helped top tech companies attract and retain high-performing talent. Beyond work, she mentors, speaks, and shares knowledge to empower young professionals and loves to dance, even if not perfectly. Alison Ayo specializes in crafting digital experiences that drive tangible business results beyond just dazzling users. She has a goal, and it is to chart a course that not only meets user needs but also fuels business growth. One of her superpowers is translating geek speak and business jargon into visual concepts that everyone can get behind. Kishin Naidu is the CEO and founder of GIG Engineer, an engineering-first platform redefining how engineering work gets done. With a passion for innovation and agile solutions, he helps companies scale teams instantly with top engineering talent. An MBA grad, engineer, and Star Wars fan, he believes in playing big and building the future of work.
Hi, Alison. Hi, Kirshen. Please,
Hi.
could you teach me how to pronounce your name?
It's Cushion.
Kirshen. Okay, nice to meet
Kush,
you,
if that's you.
Kirshen. Nice to meet you, Alison. How are you both doing today?
I'm great, thanks. And you?
I'm doing fantastic. Alison, how about you?
I'm good. It's been a long day, but I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I hope the day gets better.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this. And for those listening, on this call, our discussion today is going to be centered around how companies can develop and retain top talent. We live in a world, in a changing landscape where people are trying to, particularly professionals, they're trying to earn more, and you find out that recruiters are putting, or company leaders are putting so much effort into training employees, but at the sight of a better offer, someone is moving somewhere else. So based on different reasons, so we need to think about how we can balance development and also still retaining top talent. So I will start with Kirshen, and I want to understand, in your experience as a founder slash employer, what is one key strategy that you've used to retain top talent, especially in a competitive industry like tech?
Sure. So gig engineer, we operate in the engineering space that encompasses, all kinds of engineers, and we connect companies with an on-demand engineering talent pool. So for us, we get access to different types of companies that are hiring different engineers, and gives us insights into what really motivates engineers to stay at companies. I think that's key in with many companies retaining talent. Trying to really understand what motivates the sort of workforce or the engineers to work for those companies. I think these days, having that understanding allows companies to structure strategies and packages and incentives that keep talent engaged and committed to the company. And this can vary depending on the stage of where somebody is in their career. So, more junior engineer may want access to interesting opportunities, things that challenge them, exciting projects that they can work on, that they can grow and learn from, perhaps more so than just remuneration as an incentive. Where somebody that's perhaps later on maybe looking at work-life balance, if they've got kids or family, if they enjoy traveling, um, and access to maybe global opportunities, while somebody at a later stage may want is not so interested in challenging projects, but may want to work on projects where they can transfer knowledge or add value. So I think the key is keeping engineers engaged, keeping them motivated, and also valuing their contributions. I think that goes a long way in keeping and retaining talent.
Thank you, Karshan. I think that's very insightful. You mentioned first understanding what motivates these employees, then centering incentives around that as much as possible. And I think that's very key. Thank you so much. So this time I'm going to be asking Alison that question, but from a reverse perspective. So you are a senior product designer at Moneypoint Group, and it's a company everyone wants to work in. From your perspective as a top talent, what would you say is that one thing that keeps high performance engaged beyond compensation? What are top talents really looking for from their employers in today's world of work?
Okay, thank you, Michelle. I know you said one thing, but I have six things. I hope that's fine.
Oh,
Um,
it's perfect.
yeah, so I think first thing to note is that the higher you go in your career, the less money matters. This is not to say that money is not important. It is, but I don't think that for at least for most of the people who I have been able to speak to as well, including myself, money tends to matter a little less the higher that you go in your career. And I think the first and most important thing that high performers are looking out for is seeing the actual impact of their work. So it's very important that they know that they are moving the needle on something that actually matters. So when there's a direct line from your actual input, your effort to the real outcome in the market or for users, those people tend to stay the pants. I've seen a lot of people who have left companies that have paid them like probably their highest salaries just because after a while you lose your sense of self and you lose the motivation to keep working at that company because they're not launching what they are working on, or just something goes wrong and they tend to always appreciate the features that you're always constantly working on. Second thing is autonomy. I think it's also a very important factor, and top talents usually tend to know their craft and they need the space to be able to apply that expertise without some kind of excessive oversight or micromanagement. And if companies are able to set out clear objectives but allow flexibility in execution, you see that those companies tend to keep their best people engaged longer. And it's difficult to poach engineers or any talent actually from these companies because the engineers have almost complete autonomy with their product and it's just easy to work with. Third Third thing is growth opportunities. You basically would see that high performers are driven by mastery. They basically want to keep developing their skills and taking on new challenges. Now, sometimes this doesn't always mean promotion. It can actually be like expanding, horizontally into new areas or diving deeper into specialty. For example, you see that somebody who has been a senior product designer but has done mostly visual design in their role will want to take up more research task or take up more UX writing or take up usability testing or take up even implementation or whatever. I know I said, okay, I've lost count, but another one, whatever number this is actually the quality of the team. And I know that this is probably number 4, but I think it should have been number 1 because employees tend to feed off energy from other employees. So if somebody is talented, they want to be able to work with other talented people who kind of push them to be better. It's like a magnetic effect. When you have like a small or large group of high performers working together, they are able to actually create a culture of excellence that is kind of hard to leave. So you see people just be like, oh, I'm at this company because of people that I get to work with. They're really amazing people. Another thing that I think is extremely underrated with high performers is leadership. And the leadership actually can make or break or top talent engagement with the company because as somebody who knows what you're doing, you kind of expect your leaders to be as competent, if not more competent, and you expect them to be transparent and you expect them to be genuinely invested in both the work that you're doing and the people who are doing the work. So yeah, you probably see people leave companies because of their managers or because of people who are in business or in C-level, stuff like that. I don't know what number I am in, but it's the last one. I think it is purpose alignment. People, as you go higher, like I mentioned, money tends to matter less. And what is more important is actually working on problems that you actually find meaningful. And of course, this definition kind of varies from person to person. It might be a technical challenge, it might be social impact, maybe market potential, but the work needs to matter in a way that resonates with each person's personal values. And this doesn't mean that the company, if the people leave because the company is doing rubbish, it's just that the values of that company might not really resonate with that person at that time. But yeah, in summary, I feel like right now these non-financial factors are becoming more critical and tend to become more important for people the higher that they grow in their careers. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Alison. And I think I want to get Keshan's perspective on this. So, from a founder perspective, what do you think, particularly the leadership reason? She mentioned something that leadership is also another reason, or how the leaders of the organization are. That's another reason people could stay or leave. What do you think around that from a
Yeah.
leader perspective?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Leadership aspects is very important. I agree with quite a lot of what Alison said regarding, understanding what incentivizes the people. And as you get older, the less important money becomes, and they look for other factors in terms of that. From a leadership perspective, I would say, also to the point of high performance teams, when somebody joins a high performance team, it elevates them to a high level. When somebody joins a low performance team, they get, they sort of go down to that
Yeah.
level and the culture. So I would say, I've held quite senior positions in the companies before I decided to become a founder. And what you find is that very often leadership dictates a lot of the culture in the organization, and that culture can be, it can be a high performance culture, it can be a range of cultures. I think more often than not these days, you end up with a lot of these corporates having very toxic cultures for some reason or another. And I think from a leadership perspective, in a startup, it's also quite a different setup, but you find some of the biggest companies running things like a startup, especially in the tech space. If you look at, companies like the way Apple and Google and Nvidia and stuff, seem to operate. So very flat structures. In terms of leadership styles, without getting too technical, is there's different types of leadership styles. I think there's probably 2 or 3 leadership styles that I identify with that I think contributes to developing that kind of culture and having that coherence in a team. One is, you can say, authentic leadership. So developing a culture of psychological safety where people can trust each other. That's a critical factor of high performance teams. This is actually from a study developed by Google as well. So authentic leadership. The other one is transformational leadership. Identifying a vision of where you want to take the company, especially in a startup space. It's very important that everybody is aligned to this goal or believes in this kind of vision, so they know where they're going, and working together to achieve that, in that kind of leadership style. And the third one would be coaching, where there's problems that you need to tackle on a daily basis. How do you tackle that together with a team? So I think those kind of things have been very important in the way we operate. Although, we're still in a startup in the space, but I would say the fact that everybody, is working together, really believes in what we're doing, because that's what you need in a team. You need believers. If
Yes.
the organization don't believe in what you're doing, that's a sign that there's something wrong, either in the leadership or the culture. And just to close that point, a lot of companies spend a lot of time on strategies and vision and all of these nice and fancy things, and a lot of money trying to execute that. But you speak to anyone on the ground and you ask them 1 or 2 questions. What's the vision of the company? What is the values of this company? And what is the what's the strategy of this company? And I'll tell you, 90% of the people you speak to in big corporates, they either know 1 out of the 3 or 0. So that's also telling of the kind of leadership and the importance of it, in an organization. That's my view.
I think that's very insightful. Thank you so much, Karshan. So I would ask you another question. And I think this is a very important one that people listening will want to know. So in your years, in your life as a founder or employee, how do you strike a balance between hiring externally for new skills or upskilling existing team members? So say, for example, you need a particular job done, or there's a vision you want to execute in your organization that needs a required set of skills, but you don't have those people available. So how do you strike a balance between hiring externally every time you need new skills or upskilling existing team members?
Yes. So the whole business model around gig engineer is to make companies more agile. And that means instead of sitting with a very static workforce, you're able to adapt to market conditions and business needs. And you can say in engineering, every project is different. It's impossible to have all those skills in-house. So I would say, businesses are there to be agile, to respond to market conditions and be able to adapt to them. So from a project perspective, companies should hire the best people for the project or the job that they need to get done. And if that's in-house, great. If it's not, they should hire skills externally or go into the market. That's good for the market because you have access to skills when you need them, and finding the right person versus trying to retrofit somebody to a project. I think very often that happens where, a company finds somebody that's not as skilled, just that's perhaps more available than the best person for the job, and they end up fitting that. And that never really, that never improves the result on a project, for the company or for clients. So I would say, that balance in terms of hiring internally or externally comes from the business needs or project needs at a project level, because that's how companies operates in the engineering space. It's primarily project driven. And then in terms of upskilling, I would say that's is a long-term commitment from both sides. It's a commitment from the people that work there, that they are committed to improving their skills, and it's a commitment from the company to be able to upskill people. And that should be driven by the business need to say, these are the types of skills that we need in-house, where this is what we have, these are the gaps, and this is where we need to invest in the longer term, to upskill people, but also to retain them.
Mhm. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you. And speaking of upskilling, I would move to Alison now. So we find that a lot of or some organizations are yet to cement themselves when it comes to taking employee growth seriously or investing in their growth. So I want to understand, in your career journey, do you have any moment where a company made a last impression on you through the way they invested in your growth? And if yes, you want to share a little bit on it?
Yeah, there has been a couple. I think I've probably been one of the most fortunate people with employers because for most of my career, I have worked at the best companies with the best teams and best managers. I know that this is not the same for everybody, but I think I want to acknowledge the people. So if you're one of the people who has invested in my growth, the shout out to you. But I think the one I want to mention is with my this was actually earlier in my career, and there was a point where I was kind of transitioning from just visual design to more product design, and I was struggling with user research. We did have an optimization going on, that I was supposed to kind of take charge on, but I didn't have enough research experience. I knew the theory of things, but I hadn't done actual practical, and I was struggling with it. And my director at the time could have easily just said, "Oh, work with one of the researchers." Because we did have researchers on the team. Work with some of the senior researchers on the team and figure it out. Or she could have just said, "Oh, you know what? You're already great with visual design. Just keep doing that." But she actually pushed me to take full ownership of that. Now, in retrospect, this was, of course, because I had shown potential of being able to find windows when the doors were shut, and I had shown that I was able to take up this challenge. So, this is, I don't know if it's an exception or the norm or whatever, but this is exactly what happened. And she put me all in and just said, figure it out. And but the part that makes this unique is that we did have off the record retrospect where she would call me at the end of each session and say, "Oh, tell me how it went." And I'll just talk her through like all the user interviews that I did, who I spoke to, what I asked them, and then she would basically try to walk me through my thought process and then be like, "Oh, what would you do differently now that you know this, or now that you see that there's a criteria for selecting participants for user research, what would you do the next time?" So this was very special to me because she's a director, she's extremely busy, she has management breathing down her throat with deadlines and everything, but she still found time to help me with that. And of course, it was a two people thing. um I was able to catch up really quick, and in under a month, I was basically conducting interviews like I studied in a school. So that was one time. I know that she absolutely did not have to do that. In fact, it would have been way easier for her to just ask me to keep doing what I was doing. But I appreciate the time that she put into it, and I'm sure, of course, she did that because she did see potential with my previous work and previous commitment. So yeah, that was the moment for me.
I think that's very beautiful. What she did, and what I hear you say is she was willing to throw you into the water, but she was present as a guide if ever you're drowning or you need someone to hold you. And I think that's a beautiful thing that leaders should have. It just creates a beautiful experience for the employees. And then of course you also did the work to not let our expectations down. So thank you so much for that. So I will move to the next question because of time, and this is for both of you. So maybe Alison can go first or Keshin can go first. What are some practical ways that you think? I know you've shared things around just ensuring that we can develop and retain talent. But now, what are some practical ways that company can foster a culture where learning is continuous and not just something that is checked during appraisals or performance reviews? I don't know who wants to go first.
Um, okay, I will go first.
Okay.
I'm going first. Okay, not this, not why, but like I have actually have noticed that companies do these things where they buy Udemy subscriptions. Can I just say, on behalf of all the employees, nobody reads that. Nobody, we take the courses, but I think it's only a small percentage of people who actually take the learnings from these courses in their workflow or for whatever experience it is. Just because of the way that it's structured and the workload we have to do our work, it's more of a requirement, to be very honest. So still apologize to the employers who invest in that. Love you, but it doesn't really work. I think what works is making learning part of a daily workflow instead of something that is like extra.
Okay.
And it's something that we do at Money Point where, or not just Money Points, other companies do it, of course, but it's where you basically do like 15 minutes skill shares before maybe major sprint planning. Say, for example, we are trying to do optimization for the UX flow for, let's say, transfers, and there are core skills that are necessary, maybe with user research, with visual design or with prototyping. You could do like some skill shares before the sprint planning, or if you want to dedicate maybe like an hour every Friday to kind of explore new tools together or explore, for example, now that AI is in the market, there's a lot of tools like Lovable. Just have a not physical, but like an interactive session with everybody on the call. And it's nothing too dramatic. It could just be like every Friday, 1 hour, or every other Friday, or once a month or twice a month. If you work hybrid or on site, even more perfect because now you're seeing everybody in person. And it just kind of normalizes learning as part of the job because you're taking not just the courses, but you're also applying it to the process. And it doesn't see that learning as like a separate thing from that. So some of the best places that I've actually seen this implemented tend to build feedback loops for everything. So it's not just like, oh, did you do the Udemy before 14th of June? Check, great. It's that you are able to what's the word? Take the learning that you've actually done it in practical. And the best way to do this is usually before sprints because it's not just that, oh, I have this list of backlog to do, but I also have to take this course on something that's not related to, well, now that I think about it, that's not a good answer. But you get the point. So yeah,
Yes, I get it.
you basically are able to see the practical aspects of things because you are kind of applying into the process and it feels like learning is part of your job. You are able to integrate learning into the backlog because it's like some kind of immediate what's the word, impact. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Okay.
And I think another thing that works is creating safety around mistakes.
Hmm.
So now this is not the question you asked me. I feel like I'm diverting from the
No,
initial
I
question.
feel like you're very insightful, or maybe we can come back to that. I would love to
Yeah.
hear what Kev
Yeah,
shared.
you probably will come back to that. But yeah, I think it's just the structure currently with some companies is a little too rigid and a little too abstract. So people just see, you probably see those of you in the comments probably are even victims or perpetrators of this act where you would see that your company set a deadline for end of next month and you would wait till like the week before the deadline so that you can finish your courses and you know your heart that you actually didn't learn anything from that, but it's more like a checklist thing and you take notes that you never go back to, but it would help both the company and you if you're taking it like you're taking a course and then applying it to your work
Work.
that you have to do. But yeah, that would be my answer.
Very insightful. Thank you so much. Quickly, Karshan, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Not really. I think Alison said raised quite a lot of points, especially the last one. Studying something for the sake of something, studying doesn't really work. You need to be able to apply what you're learning to your day-to-day stuff. And that catchphrase that's going around is that AI won't replace people. It'll be somebody that's using AI that will replace them. So the importance of that for a continuous improvement. I mean, everybody we should be studying something in AI. Otherwise, you the risk is that you become irrelevant and you don't have a job. So
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I like the way you phrased it, piggybacking off what Alison said, where you said, don't study for the purpose of studying, study to apply it, right? And basically just ensure that you are remaining conversant with the trends in today's day and age. So, because of time, I would have loved to ask you more questions, but I know you both are busy, so I have to let you go. But before you go, I want to put you on the hot seat a little, and there's no right or wrong answer. But I'll start with question. And I'm very sure the people listening want to know about question. So if you could have one superpower out of flying or being invisible, which would you choose and why?
flying.
Why?
Because I mean, everybody wants to be a Superman, so that's
Okay.
that's what I would choose.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Alison, how about you?
You know, I don't think I want to fly. I think I want to be invisible. But my reasons are very unethical, and I don't want it to be on the internet. So I'm kind of I honestly would rather, yeah, I honestly would rather be invisible. I have so many things that I would do if I was invisible, but they're not internet worthy. So let's not put me to trouble. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. And I must say, I had a fantastic time discussing with you too. And I'm very sure that everyone online also did. So please, if you have questions, feel free to send them in and we'll revert with the responses. And once again, thank you so much, Kirshen. Thank you so much, Alison. And yeah, we look forward to connecting with you again some other time.
Great. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Nice.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying tuned until now. Staying tuned until now. We're going to be going on a brief break right now to just show you a little bit of interesting insights we gathered from someone special to us at Talenvo. And afterwards, we're going to be back to wrap today's summit up. So please don't go anywhere. You can also let me know in the chat which you would prefer. Do you want to fly or do you want to be invisible? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Talenvo, and I am a software engineer. So a big career pivot started for me back in 2022 when I shifted from being an agricultural and bioresource engineer to venturing towards software engineering. And this came with a lot of challenges. One, that of resilience. It taught me how to actually love challenges and beat them regardless. How to love learning on the fly and being the best no matter where I am. And Talenvo has actually helped in nurturing that particular venture of mine. Why? Because in just 2 weeks, it enabled me build something that I know is going to be a lifelong help to so many people out there. And I'm so grateful for that challenge because it pushes me to be the best no matter where I am. And for that, I say thank you.
All right, we are back. I must say that today's summit has been amazing. I know I'm your host, but I learned a lot. I wish you could see my note right now. I have a knack for writing a lot of things, so it has been a very insightful one. So what I want you to do right now is just to get into the chat and let me know one thing you took out from today's session. I see Adeoye say that great session, thanks to the speakers. So please drop it in the chat. What was that one thing that stood out for you? You know, from Allison's session, one of the things she said that has just stayed with me is the fact that companies have to lean towards being people-centric or putting people first, not just their employees, but even their customers, because that would have a direct impact on business growth, right? And then she also talked about how even you as an employee in an organization, if you feel like your organization is not taking a people-centric approach, you can drive that change from within, you know, from the small space or the small sector you control, or even from your deliverables. Even if you are not occupying the title of a leader, you can start enacting people-centric policies or approaches to what you do, and little by little it begins to rub off on everyone. So please get to the chat, share something you learned. I would love to see it. All right. And then from the panel session, it was very interesting, you know, from Allison and Kirshen, you know, just sharing how they revise or revolutionize the workplace, how they ensure that people are growing and they are able to retain them by understanding the things that matters to them and building incentives around that. You know, Allison also from her perspective also shared how managers or leaders have impressed her, you know, in a time or in a career journey. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So if you're a leader on this call, you're a founder on this call, you're an HR manager on this call, there is a lot of work for you to do. But I know that you have the strength to do it. And if every one of us can take this path in our work, you'll find out that the workplace will become a more beautiful place for people to work, a more beautiful place for our customers, and in turn for the business. So on this note, I would like to say thank you everyone for joining in today. Thank you for staying true till now. And please remember that this is just day 2. Day 3 kicks off tomorrow, which is the grand finale by 3 p.m. West African time. So please tell everyone you know that this is the place to be. Come with all the energy, come with your notes, and we cannot wait to see you. On that note, do have a great morning, afternoon, or evening ahead. My name is Michelle Adamu once again, and I was glad to have this amazing experience with you, hosting you.
What? Are you serious? How now?
Guy, I completed like 3 projects on Talenvo, and the company liked my portfolio.
No way. This could change everything.